Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. So today we're going to take a quick look, we're going to take a look at the stacking tool within Onyx. So I'm going to first of all set up some templates, set some preferences to set my defaults. After that, I'm going to go into the stacking interface, have a play around with some of the tools in there, and then we're going to finish up with generating a stacking report. Okay, so first of all, I am inside of Onyx already, as you can see, inside of the web-based browser. And in my settings, this is where, for those who are familiar with Onyx, in my settings, you'll see that I have my stacking templates tool. Okay, so I can go to these stacking templates. And from here, okay, perfect. I must have had a timeout there, guys. Apologies for that. Okay, let me just see if I can quickly get back on track there. Okay. So in my settings, I can go to my stacking templates, and this is where I can configure new templates for bundles, pallets, trucks, and for false panels as well, or padding, if you want to call it that. Okay, so in this screen here, or in this window, you can see that when I create a new bundle, it will be shown under these headings in a list view. So any new bundles I create will be shown in a list just here. You can also do that for pallets, trucks, and false panels, and we'll go ahead and do that shortly. So, okay, I'm going to start off with the bundles option. And on the top right, I've got the create new option here. So I'm going to click on that. And from here, you can see I've got the interface for creating a new bundle. So on the right, we have a useful diagram to tell us exactly what we are referring to when we are talking about the height parameter, width, and length. That's extremely useful, especially when we're trying to figure out how this is going to be proportioned in the stacking environment. So first of all, our units, these are read-only units. So it's important that we set our units before we go ahead and create those templates. Your units can be set from your Onyx settings, and you can see here on the left we've got our unit settings, which we can configure dynamically and change those as and when we need to. All right, so at the moment I'm working in imperial decimal inches, so these values will correspond with those units. So template name, this is where I can specify the name of a particular bundle or this bundle that I'm about to create, and in my list it will show me that name. So okay, I go ahead and say bundle, let's hope I can spell today, bundle, I'll go for bundle 1. Okay, nice and easy, can't go wrong. So, okay, so I've got a template name, which is how we'll refer to it or reference it in the list. Next, we have the option to add a prefix, and we can add a prefix if we need to, but on this occasion, I won't add one. And that will just add a prefix to the actual bundle that it places in the stacking environment. So once it places that label, the label can have a prefix at the start of it, and we can also add a suffix at the end as well if we need that. Next, we have the starting number. So this number is referring to the incremental number it will place on the bundle as and when we create a new one. And we have a number of digits which we can place after that name that it associates with the particular bundle. I'm going to change the number of digits to 2, just because that's my preference, but you can set it to 3, 4, 5, whatever you need. Incremental offset, that is referring to the number of steps it will take as it adds those new bundles. So it will create bundle 1, then bundle 2, bundle 3, and so on. So for this particular bundle, I'm going to set the length parameter to 120 inches, which is fine. Width to 96, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. And height to 60. Okay, so at 60 inches, I should be able to fit around 10 panels inside of this particular bundle, if there are 6-inch panels, give or take. All right, so that's those set. We can also set the standalone weight for this bundle as well. So the weight of the bundle before we even place anything in it. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, if we need to place a vertical panel as well, so vertical bundle, sorry, we can also change it to a vertical bundle, in which case we can change orientation of those parameters and the bundle in that case. For now, I'm happy with these settings. I'm going to go ahead and say create. And that will create that bundle in my list view, as you can see there. Okay. All right. Okay, there we go, sorted. Okay, so next I'll go into the palettes. So just like what we've seen with bundles, we have a very similar set of options for palettes. And again, I can go ahead and say create new. And in this environment here, in this dialog box, you can see again we're faced with similar parameters to the ones we've just seen. And again, those units are read-only. We can set the template name, so I'm going to say palette 1 because I'm so imaginative, so that's palette 1. Perfect. And again, we've got the option to set a prefix, give the palette a name. Okay, so I could say palette or yeah, palette, that's fine. And we could also add a suffix if we needed to do that as well. We could also make that just a P as well if you wanted to be if you wanted to abbreviate that. Depending on your naming convention anyway. Okay, again, we've got those options to set the number of digits and the increments. So I'm going to say 2 and I'm going to leave the increment as 1. Palette length, this is referring to the actual palette that it's going to place at the bottom of this container. And as you can see, we can set the sizes of the palette separate to the size of the container that's sitting on top of it. Okay, so we've got the palette length. I'll leave that as 48 inches. Palette width, again, I'll leave that at 48 inches. Palette height, 6.5 inches. And palette weight, so that's the weight of this actual palette. And again, I'll leave that value. That's in pounds, so I'll just leave it as it is. On the right, we've got the max length of the container. Okay, so this is 120, similar to what we have in our bundle. Max width, this can be 96. Max height, we can set that to 60. And we've got our max weight. So what is the maximum allowance for the weight that's going to be placed in this container? And again, I'm just going to leave that as is for now, but that is fully customizable and changeable if you need to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit create. That will create me a new palette template, and I'll move on to the trucks option. Okay, so within the trucks template settings, we have the option of naming it, giving our template a name. So as you guessed it, truck 1. And we've got the prefix and suffix options, as you can see, and we can set the number of digits. I'm going to set that to 2. And we can also change the type of trailer that's going to place in the view. So I've got the option between flatbed and step deck. So for flatbed, as you can see, we've got these options here. And if you wanted to use a step deck, you have this additional diagram, which will help you understand exactly which parameters are relating to the elements in the trailer. Okay, so you do have the option of setting the configuration to step deck or flatbed. Just for the purpose of the demonstration, I'm going to keep it quick and stick to flatbed. Okay, so I can set the trailer length. So I'm going to set that to 576 inches. I got the trailer width, which I'll set to 102. And I've also got the option of applying an overhang to the left-hand side, right, front, and back of the trailer as well. For now, I'm just going to leave those as 0. Okay. I've also got the max load height, which I will set it to 144 inches, so 12 feet in that case. And we've got the trailer bed height, which I'll set at 60 inches. Okay, there we go. Now I've applied those values, I can hit create. And again, it's going to create me a template. So the useful information that it stores here is we have an index related to the fact that this is template number 1. We've got the name of our template, who it was created by, and the date it was created on as well. This is similar for bundles and palettes as well. So I have that same information. We also have the false panels option where we can create a false panel or padding, which will be placed in between those panel members. Oh, sorry, not panel members, the panels once they're placed inside of a bundle, pallet, or on a truck. Okay, so I'm going to say create new. And in our false panels menu, we've got the option to, again, apply a name to it. So we can associate a name to it. I'm just going to call this padding. I might skip the 1 this time. I'll set the number of digits to 2. And I'll leave the increment offset to 1. I can set the size of this padding element. So the length can be 120, similar to what we have in our wall. Height, this can be the height of the element. So this will be 96. Okay, whoop, 96, not 6096. And we can have the thickness, which will be around 6 inches. The same thickness as our panels in this case. Okay. I can also set the standalone weight of this padding element, and if in case you wanted to take that into consideration once it's placed in your containers as well. So it will also add that weight into the total calculation for that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit create, and that will again add that template. Okay, so that is the first step that we've done. We've created our stacking templates. This step's important because we need some templates to be able to start creating those containers inside of the stacking environment, which we will dive into shortly, guys. Before we do that, I'll go to my stacking preferences. So just beneath stacking templates, we have stacking preferences. And from here, I can configure my defaults. Okay, so I can choose which template will be my default bundle template. Okay, so the one I've just created, which template will be my default palette and truck as well. I've also got the same option for my padding or my false panel, and I'll just choose padding there, as you can see. We can choose the side in which it will place the padding when we generate padding in the stacking environment. We can choose the top side or the bottom side, and it will place the padding accordingly. Okay, so we also have the panel type. In this case, we've got a wall panel, and we've got the specific panel categories that it will take into consideration when it's placing those padding elements. So we can say panels with no opening, panels with door openings, panels with window openings, and panels with generic openings. Okay, so we can check those on or off and make those modifications if we need to. For now, I'll stick with those settings and I will move on. So next, we've got the set stacking methods options here. And these options correspond with our reorganize button inside of the stacking environment. I will go over this again once we're in there. But for now, our bundles, we have the option to choose a pyramid formation. So when we create those bundles, when we place a panel, it will place the largest at the bottom and range into the smallest at the top. So in that pyramid formation, in other words. Okay, we also have the option of choosing 3 longest at the bottom and then ranging from the shortest to the longest. Reason for that is because it will create the largest void in the middle of the panel, and then from there we can use less padding elements in order to fill those gaps. So that's the benefit of doing it that way. But for now, I will leave this as is, and we can make those changes to this at a later time as well, guys. I will make reference to that again later on. If you wanted to save your stacking session, you can choose your preference. Well, it does autosave, sorry. Stacking autosaves. So you can save it manually, which means you can save it anytime whilst you're working in the session. Or if you don't save it, if you don't save it periodically, you can also have your autosave preferences to create autosaves in the background for you. Okay, so you've got the maximum number of backups. You can change it to 1 and range it from 1 to 10. And we've got the intervals ranging from 5 minutes to 90 minutes. Okay. All right. In the general options here, we can choose to confirm a container's name. Again, this option is available inside of the stacking environment, and I will show you exactly what that is. And panel categories is relating to how we want panels to look. We're not going to explore that today, but there are some tech tips out there on that feature if you are interested in that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is jump into my project. So first of all, I need to save changes. So I'm going to save those preferences. I'm going to go to my projects. And as you can see, I've got a project that's been preset up just to save time. Okay, so we have 104 panels and there's 1 file inside of this particular project. Okay, so we're not going to focus on the panel manager today, but we will be going to the project viewer tab at the top and activating the stacking tool. All right, so In my stacking sessions, as you can see, there are currently no existing stacking sessions, but we can create some new ones, and they will be listed in a list view just beneath these headings, with the relative information also generated for those. We will refer back to this at a later point, so we'll show you this once it's populated with some information, just so you're not looking at blank columns there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start a new session, and inside of this window, if I start at the top of this interface, you'll see in the General tab, we have a few options. We have the Save Session option, where we can do a save and we can do a save as. If we've got an existing file, we can save as and create a copy, but not override the original. We've got the Publish option, and we've got Progress Summary, and this will tell you how many of your total panels are inside of a bundle, pallet, or a truck. And as you can imagine, you can have a variation of these based on bundles being placed inside of a truck and pallets being placed inside of a truck. One thing to mention at this point is that you can place a bundle inside of a pallet. You can place panels inside of bundles. You can place panels inside of a truck if you want to. So there are various ways that you can place your panels, and you may place bundles inside of these and interchange those options. So it may vary and change what you see on the screen based on that. Okay, so that's our stacking progress summary. Sorry, preferences is relating to those settings that I showed you in the stacking preferences, and this is where we can make those changes dynamically in this window. So we can say set default bundle, and I can make a change to the default template from this location. I've also got my autosave preferences, panel categories, stacking methods, which is relating to the pyramid formation or 3 longest, shortest to longest. And then we've got confirm container's name, which is just us verifying and confirming that we're happy with the panel name, or sorry, the bundle name or the container name once we've created it. Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. So we've got view. View is relating to this window here that you can see. Once we create a new bundle, pallet, or truck, we will see 3 windows, one of which is a large 3D view, and we'll have 2 smaller views, one 3D and one side view, as you can see here. At the moment, we've only got one 3D view, which is this one, and you can see I can toggle that on and off. All right. On the next tab, we have the stacking tools, and from here I can go ahead and create a new bundle, a new pallet, and a new truck. Okay. These will be based on the templates that I've created already, and based on my default settings, defining which one I want to make my default template. That will become the active template in the model or in the project or in the window. Okay, so next we have the edit button. So once we've created a container, we can go ahead and make an amendment to the container by hitting the edit button. So if we had some containers here, I could click on the one that's relative to the one I want to modify, and then hit edit, and it'll just open it up in a modification window where I can make some changes to it and its contents. Generate padding does exactly what it says in the tin. It will generate padding in between your panels. So if you have multiple panels, you can place padding in between each one, and it'll place those padding elements in between each and every panel. You can also remove padding, any unnecessary padding that you no longer need. We've got a couple of ways to automate the stacking tools as well. So we've got manual stacking, where we can manually place panels inside of a container. And we've also got some automation here, which allows us to automatically place these in a container based on either a sequence or defining a path. And the last option in this tab is the renumber option, where we can go ahead and rename and renumber a panel if we need to change its label. Okay, so we'll go through all these tools, and I'll show you exactly what they can do. But yeah, that's our settings at the top. Just a bit lower down, we've got sequence type, which is referring to the sequence that you can create in the sequencing tool. So just like we have the stacking tool, we have the sequencing tool as well. And inside of sequencing, we can set a logical sequence for our panels so they can be arranged in a certain way or considered in a certain numerical order. I've already created a second sequence, so I can make that the active one if I wanted to, but you can see there it's just referencing a sequence type based on our sequencing. Just beneath that, we have filters. Filters is referring to the elements that we can load into the window on the right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and not put you guys to sleep with me talking too much. Okay, so I'm going to click load panels. As you can see, these are the panels that it's loaded in. Not looking so great right now, but we do have a few ways to change the way these are displayed. So we've got a few visibility options here. We can show parts for all panels, which will work its way through these all these panels slowly, generating the members in between each one. So I could show you, I could start that process and you can see it's gradually showing us those members. Or if you want to speed it up a bit, we can click on a panel and we could say show parts for selected panels instead. And it should go ahead and show me the members for the selected. Maybe not because I've interrupted it. Okay, another way of showing your panel members is to set the level of detail. So I'm going to go back to filters and set the level of detail to fine. Okay, again, I can say load panels, which is going to load everything. And you can see now all our panels displayed in all their glory. All right, so the filters are used to, sorry, I've lost my word there. They're used to choose whichever elements we want to display on the screen. Okay, so we've got the ability to save by type. Okay, so we can say only show wall panels. We can say define them by level. Only show me elements which are on level 1, level 2, or level 3. Or you can use a combination of all three. We've also got area, category, and we've got the file as well. I've mentioned in the past you can also have multiple files inside of a project. And yes, you can toggle off one file and load in another one instead. Okay, so what I want to do is just get rid of these elements at the top here because I don't really want to put those in a container at the moment. So I'm going to turn off my any elements not on the internal or external category in this case. I'm going to hit load again, and as you can see, it just gets rid of those excess panels. Okay, so we've got the ability to be quite specific about what we want to load into the view. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and just choose my first floor. Okay, so I'm going to eliminate the other two floors in this case, or the other two levels. I'm just going to load in this level here. In the panels tab, you can see that it's displaying all the panels in this model or in this file, and you can see it's going from 1 all the way up to 104. Okay, so it's showing me all the panels that I've loaded into this project. Some of them aren't on display in this view, but they are listed here on the left, as you can see. Okay, so we've got the information relating to the panels as well, so the length, the height, the thickness. This is good information, as it may also aid how you group them and place them in your bundles. And it's just nice to reference it as well. The next tab, we have the stacking tab. This will populate with all the containers that we create and all the contents of each container. Remember, you can place a container inside of another container, and based on that, it will show this list in a tree view where you can expand it and you can, what's the opposite of expand? Sorry, I've lost my words, guys. Yeah, the opposite of expand, you know what I mean. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start stacking these panels or placing them in containers because that's what we're here for, right? Okay, so I'm going to say add bundle, and that will place a brand new bundle in the model. Before I continue, there are some options on the left here that you can see you can use to modify what you can do with this particular bundle. So for example, I can move it. Okay, first of all, I'm going to have to close this window first. So I'll go through these first and then we'll go back to that. Okay, so first of all, our new stacking, our new container is now listed in the stacking environment. So you can see our new bundle is here and it doesn't contain anything at the moment. Okay, but as we start to place elements inside that bundle, it will populate with whatever panels we placed inside of it. Okay, so I'm going to use the manual stacking tools now rather than the automation ones, but we will go through those as well. So to place a panel in a container, we can simply select a panel and we can click and drag and drop. So we've got that option. and you can be quite specific about which ones you want to place in and the order in which you want to place them. Okay, so I can just go ahead and do this. You can multi-select as well, so you don't have to take your sweet time like I was doing. Okay, so I could go ahead and add those in. Or you've got the option of selecting your panels in the view and then hitting the plus sign, and that will just add in those panels that you've selected. Okay, so this will just add them to the container as well. All right, so that's how we can add panels. You can also remove panels as well. And if I wanted to remove all of these panels, I can select those panels, and I've got the remove from container button there. We've also got delete, as you can see in brackets. You can also hit the delete key and that will send them back to their previous location in the model. Okay. Next, we've got the reveal option. So let me just put a few of these back in the container again, guys. Apologies for that. Or yeah, Control Z works perfectly fine. And if I wanted to show the location of where these panels were previously located or where I've taken them from, I can hit the I, which will reveal their previous location in the model. All right. Next, we have the false panel option. So if there are any gaps in the bundle that we've created, so as you can see here, I've got an extremely long panel and the length of my bundle isn't quite correct for the contents. Okay, not a problem. There are ways of getting around that. If you are working to a constraint though, I would say use the correct sizes because that's important. But in this case, there is a tool that we can use to rectify this issue here. Okay, so before I come on to that, we have the false panel option, where if I wanted to add an additional panel in, if there was some space in my panel. So for example, let me take out this one. I can then add a false panel in any space or gaps that are in the panel or in the bundle. So I can click on add false panel. I can choose the type of false panel I want to add in based on my template settings, and I'll just add that in. You can see it places this false panel element. If I wanted to move it or change its location, I have the move tool, which will allow me to move it in different axes. So we've got X, Y, and Z, and we can move it freely in any axis as well. Okay, so we've got those options there, and I can also move it up and down in the Y axis. Let me just go ahead and see if I can fit that in there. There we go. Perfect. It's not quite perfect, but it's good enough. Okay, so you can see that we can place that element, and yeah, that's our false panel. That will take up any gaps in the bundle. Next, we have the select option or the select button, which will allow us to just select elements. And go ahead and select those elements. Move tool, rotate. Rotate will allow us to rotate a selected element or selected elements. So it could be more than one. So you can select a couple. So I'm going to hold Control and select a few elements here. Hit rotate, and you can see we can rotate those and change their orientation. Okay. We can also do that in another axis as well. So if I change the angle of the view cube, you can see we can also rotate them in the X, Y, and Z axis. Okay. I should really be working in this elevation view if I'm going to do it that way. It's absolutely fine. Okay. So we have the shrink option. So this is the tool I was referring to earlier on when I said that this container doesn't quite match the size of these elements. Absolutely fine. We can shrink wrap these elements using the shrink option, and it will stretch this container to fit around the extreme element, so the largest element, and make sure everything's contained correctly. So as you can see there, hit the shrink to fit, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. You may be left with a few gaps, but we can sort that with a bit of padding, as you've seen already. Okay, next we have the collapse option. Okay, so you may have some gaps in your panels, and you may want to close those gaps by collapsing the panels. Okay, so the collapse option will just remove any spaces or gaps in between your panels and make sure that they're all sitting nice and flush. Okay, so CL is the shortcut, but we can also hit the collapse button, and it does exactly that. Just gets rid of any gaps. Okay, reorganize. This is the button which we would use to change the panel formation based on the pyramid or the longest three at the bottom and then shortest to longest. So if I was to click on reorganize, it's just going to place these panels largest at the bottom and then smallest at the top, as you can see. This also creates a gap that we can place a large false panel in, but you may be left with quite a few different variations of false panel in order to fill that void in this case. Okay, so I've got that option, and you can change this dynamically as well. So if I go to my general settings, preferences, we have our stacking methods, and we can choose three longest at bottom. Made that change there, and then when I hit reorganize, it will just change them to suit those to match those settings. All right, next we have the flattened selected. Okay, so flattened selected, let me just make sure I select something. Okay, so if I just click this button, this will reorganize the panels and place the false panel at the top. Okay, so it's going to place our panels, it's going to group our panels together and place any false panels and those elements on the top. So you've got that option there as well. After that, we have the ability to discard any changes and to accept any changes as well. So discard will cancel anything we've modified, and we can accept, which is the tick here. So if I was to hit the tick, it's going to ask me to confirm the container's name. Okay, the same setting that we saw inside of our general tab inside of the preferences with that checkbox to say, do you want to confirm the container's name? Okay, so I can change the name of this bundle by confirming it or changing it at this location here. I'm happy with the name it's already got, so I'm just going to leave it as it is. But you do have the option to change it again if you need to. Do not show this message again is the same as if I was to go into the preferences and uncheck the container name verification box. Okay, so for now I'm just going to say do not show this again, and it won't ask for confirmation the next time when I'm creating and confirming a panel, or a bundle. All right, so I've hit the add button. I'm hoping it hasn't done a thing for me. Let me see if I can sort this out. Okay, there we go. There we go. So that's placed those panels in this bundle, as you can see, and it's called bundle 00 because the starting number was 0, and you can see the contents of this particular bundle. Okay, so that is a method of how we can do it that way. Absolutely fine. We have another tool that we can use. So inside of the stacking environment, we have stack by path. Okay, so for stack by path, I'm going to click on this option. Okay, and it's going to tell me that I need a bundle, pallet, or a truck, and it's good to let us know that. Okay, so I'm going to add a pallet in this case. Okay, and once I've added the pallet, I can then choose to place these elements by generating a polyline over the elements that I want to place in that container. So at the top, we've got the level. So based on the active levels available in this project at the moment, the ones I've loaded in, I've got level 2, which is available based on what I've loaded in the filters. Category, I can choose external, internal. Okay, so I can choose to only show internal, for example, which is absolutely fine. And then it will only show me my internal panels. From here, I can go ahead and discard changes, accept changes. But the most important thing about this environment is that we can create a polyline which will place those those panels in containers based on the selection that we make. Okay, so for example, I can say panel 54, panel 55, I can hit escape, I can go panel, let me see if I can get something on here. You can let me, okay, let me hit click you again. Panel 56 and 57, I didn't really want to take this one as well. Okay, so let me remove that one. And I can say add 57. What comes after 57, guys? Okay, there we go. So we've got polyline 58, 59, and we're going to have 60 as well. Again, I want to remove this one because I don't want that in the sequence. Okay, so I've got those panels there, 54 to 60, and then I can go ahead and start adding panels from here to there. Okay, and then it's going to place them in the container based on the order in which you select them. So it's going to try and go, yeah, and continue with the numbering that you're trying to select them in. Okay, so I'm going to go like this, and just to finish off, guys, I've got the last one here. Hopefully that didn't take too long. You're still with me. All right, so that's all my panels selected using the stack by path method. So I can hit the green tick, and it will try and place all of these panels in that container that you've opened and created. So you may have to remove some. That's just the reality of it. Okay, so I'm going to hit the green tick now just to accept. Okay, perfect. We have all the panels that we selected in our container. And again, we need to clean it up a little bit. We need to extend it so it's actually enclosing those panels. So I can hit the shrink button. That will just resize around those elements. And if I wanted to add false panels, I can go ahead and do that. You can also group panels together as well. So if you wanted to manually adjust this to fit them in a better way, you can move them around. But no doubt you're going to want to stack these based on a logical order on how you want to load and unload them on site. Okay. All right. So I'm happy with this container now. So I'm going to hit the tick, and that will just confirm that. And that's my second one that's done there using the stack by path method. I'm going to place these just in a random container, guys, just so they're actually contained in something. So I'm just going to create another container for now, and I'm just going to say add those in, shrink those around there. And as you can see, it's not asking for a confirmation on the name. And that is because of this guy. Okay. Okay. So I've got our 3 containers at the moment. There are more panels to load in. So I'm going to go back to my filters. But at the moment, you can see we have a number of containers now which contain a number of elements. Okay, nice to see. If I wanted to modify or edit one of these, I can double click it here, or I can go ahead and say edit, and that will open up the edit window there. So let me go ahead and do that. Would have got it selected, that's why. Okay, let me, there we go, that's why. All right. Seem to have some issues here with the selection method. Perfect. There's always something. Okay, next I will just go to the next method of stacking, which is the stack by sequence. Okay, no doubt you're curious. So I'm going to go to filters, and I'm going to load in my level 1. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck level 2, load in level 1. Okay, little do you know is that I have placed these in a sequence. Okay, so there's a sequence controlling how these elements are considered and how they will be placed in the container. Okay, so as you can see, when I click load on the new selection, it seemed to empty these containers. They've not been emptied and your changes have not been discarded. It's just the case that you haven't loaded in those panels. They do exist, you just haven't loaded them into the view, that's all. There's nothing to panic about. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add a, oh, sorry. Discard. Add a bundle, and I'm going to say stack by sequence. Okay, so bundle 1, absolutely fine. Sorry, I don't need this bundle. Silly me. Let me discard that one quickly. Okay, so I've got stack by sequence. I can select a template. So I'm going to choose a bundle, and it's a list of bundles that I want you to choose from. So I've got bundle 1, absolutely fine. I'll set that as my template, and I can also set my sequence type. So as I mentioned, these panels have been assigned to a sequence, and the sequence that I've assigned them to is ground floor. Okay, so these are my ground floor panels. I've just grouped them in that kind of way. So I'm going to say set, and you can see by selecting that sequence, it's placed all those panels into containers based on the fact that they are numbered in a certain way. And as you can see, if I zoom in here, we have them in numerical order, 39. Well, yeah, so let me go from the top. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, all the way down to 40. Okay, so you can see it's maintaining that numbering system that we've got in the sequence. Again, I can shrink those around the panels if I need to, and make any adjustments that I need to make from there. Okay, so I can hit the tick, and I can go ahead and edit any one of these that I select. Okay, so I'm just going to shrink all these, make sure they're all fitting nicely inside of the container. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and edit that one as well. Same as if I double click on it, guys. Yeah, nothing new there. Shrink that around. And then the last one. Okay, so double click on that and then shrink. Perfect. Okay, so we've got a number of panels, all placed in containers, ready to be placed on a truck if we wanted to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and load in my level 1 and level 2 so we can see all of those panels placed inside of those containers. And if we wanted to reveal the location of all these panels, we do have some options here which we can use to modify what's shown on the view. So we have add panels, which will add them to a container, remove, which will remove them from a container or remove the container entirely. We've got the reveal option, which allows us to reveal the location. So if I click on this one, you'll see it will show us where each of these panels has been moved from, or the collection of panels. And then we've got move options as well, where we can choose to move a selected container, for example. So you can see I can move that one if I wanted to. We've also got the rotate option. That is useful if you wanted to rotate the orientation of your bundle and you wanted to place them on a truck, for example, and you wanted to turn them on their side kind of thing, just for stacking purposes or for loading purposes. So you can change the orientation of these if you want to, using that rotate tool there. Okay. Great. So another thing we can do just before I add a truck, guys, and yeah, place everything in the truck, we've got the renumber option. Renumber will allow you to renumber a panel or a bundle, a pallet, or a truck. First, you have to distinguish which one it is you're going to rename. So in this case, I'll say bundles, and then we can choose how we want to rename them. Okay, so I'm going to go for B, BNDL. That's fine. And I can say start number is going to be 1, number of digits can be 2, and increments can be 1. So now with this naming convention, you can see it's showing me the existing name, but as I click on it, it's just going to change that from its existing name to the new naming convention I've placed in there. Okay, absolutely fine. And it will also change that for our stacking environment as well. Okay, if you need to edit the criteria, change the way it's naming those panels, those containers, you can also edit the criteria, change these at any stage, and then continue renaming if you need to. Okay, I'm happy with what I've done there, so I'm going to hit the green tick, and yeah, we're ready to place a truck. Okay, so I'm going to say add truck, and based on the sizes I used to define the truck in my template, and this is what we've got from that. Okay, so I can simply click on a container, drag and drop, or I can mass select. Okay, so I may want to select multiple and just hit the plus sign, and it will stack them interestingly on top of one another. Okay, you may not want this, but yeah. Okay, so what I can do next is I can, I'm not going to place them all in a truck, guys. I'll just place a couple, but let me just go ahead and just remove some of these. Okay, so I'm going to remove those, and I'll remove that one as well. Okay, so I can choose to reorganize these containers. So I can just move this one to the right, for example. Okay, and I can click on this one, move that one to the right as well. And then I can use the collapse button to just collapse those and place them nicely on the truck. From the top, I can also change the location of each one. I can move them all. And if I wanted to, I could rotate a certain number of selected elements as well. I'm happy with that truck for now, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the tick, and it's going to ask me to confirm the name of my truck. Okay, so my truck is going to be called TRK in this case. Number is going to be 1, and I'm going to add that in. Okay, so I'm happy with what's been placed in containers and what's now part of my stacking session. So that will take me back to some options that I mentioned earlier on. Okay, so I've got the option to save. This will allow me to save my current stacking session and reopen it at a later time, almost like a work in progress. We're not finished with it yet, but we can come back to this session at a later time, and it will save my changes up to where I'm currently at in this session. Publish session, that will allow me to publish the session and then start to generate a report from this session. Okay, so that's a good option if you're finished and you're at a point where you want to generate some outputs from this stacking session. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and say save. I can give it a name, and I'm going to say SSS stacking. Okay, SSS Strucsoft Solutions. That's the only reason for that one, guys. Okay, so that's been saved successfully, and I'm going to go now to my project viewer. Project viewer. Click on stacking, and this will show me my auto saves. So it saved them after those intervals, and we've also got the session that I've just saved as well. Okay. We'll see here we've got an ID based on the latest number that you've used or how many sessions have been created previously. And you can see it's adding those increments based on every session that gets created. And we've got the name. Auto save will be given to the name if you don't save it yourself, if it's automatically saved it. We've got the last modified date, modified by the status. It's currently set as draft, which means these are all work in progress. The percentage of panels which are currently in bundles, in pallets, and in trucks. Okay, you may find that this does not total 100. Reason for that is because some of these are going to be contained in other things as well, guys, and there are going to be some elements which you may not want to place in a container, maybe. Okay, so I can reactivate this session. Click on the edit button, that'll take me straight back into it, and I'm happy to publish this session. Okay, you can only publish one session. You can't publish multiple, so make sure you select one of those that you're happy with and hit publish on that one. If you choose to publish another session, it will override the previously published session, so just make sure you only select one. And as you can see now, session is published. Great. And I can now go to the stacking center where I can start to work with that information. Okay. So now in the stacking center, you can see I've got my bundles, my pallets, and my trucks. Okay. So you can see for my trucks, I've got the truck element, and at the bottom here, I've got what is contained within the truck. Okay, so this is breaking it down to a granular level where I can see the panels which are placed inside of that truck. I can also see the bundles which are inside the truck and any pallets which are placed inside the truck as well. Okay, this information can be exported as a CSV, so comma separated values file, which you can open up in Excel and see in a tabular format if you need to. This will be displayed in the same way that it is shown in this interface. So you may want to reorder the information, for example, and you can also define the information that's on display as well. So you can distinguish what is in the columns if you need to. You can also filter out information, anything that's not needed. You can also filter the information as well. Okay, so if you wanted to generate a report, at the top you can see we have generate report, and we have the option to generate a report for all, or just generate a report for anything that's selected. I've currently got a truck selected, and you can see our truck contains a number of bundles, pallets, and it doesn't contain trucks, but panels. Okay, so I'm going to say generate a report for the selected element. Okay, generate all, we'll just generate for all. So that'd be all trucks, and that would be all bundles, for example, all pallets. So I'm going to say just for selected. And we'll just wait for that to load. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, guys. We'll see. Okay, so what it should do is it should generate a PDF file, which will open up on the bottom left of our screen here. And within that report, it will give us a breakdown of the contents of each container. It is working with a certain number of panels though, guys, so that's why it's taking a little while. Combine that with my my dodgy internet, and that's what we've got. Okay. So we'll see. Okay, I'll give it a few more minutes just to see if it's going to work its way through. Otherwise, I can just generate it for something smaller, and you'll see the kind of output that we can expect to get. I did want to show you for a truck because it will give you the breakdown of all the different containers and what's within each one. So it will separate all that information out for you if you need it. Okay, for now, I will abandon that one and I will go to my bundles. Okay, I'm going to go to my bundle and I'm just going to select the one at the top. Okay, so this bundle is almost the heaviest. So I'm going to pick this one, which suggests it's got the most contents. Okay, after that one. Okay, and I'm just going to say generate a report. So let me just refresh my screen quickly. Okay, so I'm going to go for this one. Generate report for selected. And it should work its way through. All right. And on the bottom left, we should see a PDF. Okay. And once I open up this PDF, you'll see that we have a legend at the top based on the line work that is created in the view, just to make things a little bit clearer for us. So I've got the extent of this particular container. So we've got the width and the height in the front elevation. We've also got a side elevation, and you can see there it also gives us the dimensions for that. We also get some a nice title block that's created alongside this information as well, which shows us what is contained in each of these containers. So you can see there we have these numbered based on the order in which they were placed in the container. Okay. Okay, so as you can see here as well, we also get this table that is generated to say what the bundle is. So this is bundle 3. Max length of this bundle is X, max width is here as well, max height, total height, and we also get the weight as well, which is really useful information, and the number of panels which are contained in here. Okay, so the total wall area, combined wall area of those is here as well. So that is just this particular container. But if we had a truck, it would also give us a breakdown of the bundles, so the number of bundles which are inside the truck, and also the panels which are in each bundle, and the dimensions for each one as well. So it's really nice output from Onyx there. Okay, so that just takes us to the end of the session, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions, guys, before I wrap up for today? Okay, if there are no questions, I guess we'll call it for today. I'll give a few minutes. Okay. Nothing at all? Okay, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Have a great day.